All right, I think now we are complete. The only person missing is T Bar, but like I mentioned earlier, they could not unfortunately make it to this event. So let's get started. Maybe the first question that I wanted to put across to the panelists, and let's start from there, is if you had to rate the health of the observation industry in 2024, with one being definitely needs some very bad medical support or is already dead, and 10 being fantastic, couldn't be better, which number would you assign to it? And I start with you, Jussi.
All right, I'll start with kind of a neutral 7. I think there is, I think it's twofold. Like I think there's massive opportunity and plethora of interesting and exciting like real world problems that the industry is tackling. So in that sense, like it's in a very healthy state and going in the right direction. The kind of an like range of exciting use cases is improving, but then or increasing, but then at the same time we have a lot of things that we can do more efficiently and more pragmatically. So still room to improve.
Okay, that was a bit of an easy answer to go with 7. So Julia, I look at you and you have to give me a different number that is not 7.
Yeah, I'm an optimist, so I would say that we are very healthy. Despite, of course, there's challenges, but I also see these challenges that they give us room for innovation, and so. When I just come back when I started, like it was at university, it was like 15 years ago. We didn't have open data. We still needed to order one set of files, and then we needed to adapt our training region to one file, and then we needed to get insights. And if we now see how far we came, really discussing about commercial satellite data, having already companies using budget for commercial satellites, but also having this large volumes of open data available. I think, yeah, we've never been better and healthier. And the challenges we see, I see this as room for innovation.
So I take it's more towards an 8.
I didn't give a number. Yeah, so I would even say 9.
Oh, okay, 9. Fantastic. So Arnis, where do you see?
Well, yeah, I'll say the universal answer. It depends on your frame of reference, of course. And if you look, for example, at the huge investments that have been flowing, well, relatively to previous times into space and especially also EO, then some of the expectations maybe haven't come to fruition. If you look at the stock prices of some of the publicly traded Earth observation companies, so it's relative to former expectations. So if you maybe don't take into account the maybe overinflated expectations, then I think it's a healthy growth, and new use cases are coming to the market. I see many services which were previously like proof of concept level are getting into operational stage. For example, network scale monitoring of ground motion, etc., etc. They are becoming staple services, not something that's innovative or novel. They're getting boring, and that's good.
So I guess you are more at a 6, at a 5, if I had to put a number to it.
Yeah, it's a 7.
It's a 7. Fantastic. The reason why I wanted to start off with this question, and maybe I give Alex the opportunity to answer as well before I continue. Alex.
So I would be actually quite pessimistic. I think that we've got a long way to go, right? So there are quite a lot of challenges when you go to geospatial events or talking to people from the sector. You will see that I mean, you will hear from many years the same story, right? That the governments are buying the data, but the commercial sector is still kind of quite low when it comes to adoption. And there is the one of the challenges is that we as geospatial professionals cannot really speak the business language well enough to really prove the value, right? Or we are looking at the solution only through the lenses of EO or geospatial rather than acknowledging that this is just one of multiple data layers that needs to be taken into account to make a decision. The lack of the, I don't know, abilities perhaps to really integrate it within the other data that are needed to make those decisions. So no, I think that there is a long way to go, and I feel being a part of it, I'm critical also towards myself of not being able to be where I wish I would have been with maturity of different use cases and the use of EO data in general.
Yeah, it's interesting that you are the person now who's more on the pessimistic side, because the way I know you, you usually tend to be over optimistic. And the reason why I asked this question and to kick off the discussion, just to give an insight, last week in Singapore was the leading geospatial event there, GeoConnect Asia, and one of the main themes of the discussion was why is geospatial or Earth observation kind of hesitating or not yet mainstream? And the like Alex just pointed out, I think one of the things we definitely need to address is providing the clear value to the customer, or communicating to the value to the customer, and not just focusing on how cool the technology is. So I guess in a sense we have an absolutely wonderful technology in front of us, an absolutely wonderful product in front of us, and we just need to be able to convince and communicate the value of it better to the consumers, and make sure that they understand the ROI. Right. So maybe let's get into the discussion. There are already a few questions from the audience, but just to kick things off, I wanted to kind of ask, look at towards looking at you, Julia, and talking about the fact that budget was one aspect where I was kind of really interested to see, and like when we looked at the report as well, quite a few companies don't have a massive EO budget. And when you look at this and when you reflect on this, do you believe from your perspective, I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time, you now have your own startup as well, and you've done a lot of consultancy in the past. Should the pricing models of Earth observation companies adjust to reflect the reality? Or do you think it's more a question of untapped potential?
I would say rather the second. So when I had a look at it, so because I come more from the open Earth observation space in the past years at least, and so for me it was already surprising to see that more than 40% indicated in the report that they had an annual budget to procure satellite data. But when I think about like having worked with different clients in the past years, I think there are three aspects on when it comes to buying data, Earth observation data, versus then choosing maybe open data sets. And the first one is that I believe often, or I have worked with some clients who didn't exactly know what data they need for their application areas. And in the end, they ended up purchasing commercial satellite data, even though they didn't need it, just also to have the feeling or to have the support, because if you also purchase commercial satellite data, then you also get kind of a support of using the data. So this can be one strategic decision as well to use commercial data. Secondly, even though when it comes to open data, even though the data is free, but there's also a cost in navigating the complex landscape at the moment. So if you start out using data and you don't know what data you need to use for your application area, it is a lot of time that you have to invest to find out like how to access the data, to discover the data, how to process it, and then also to keep up with all the changes. So there's also a cost, an imminent cost there, without a direct cost of paying for the data. And then third, I also have the feeling, speaking with people outside of the Earth observation industry, but from different application areas, there's often a misconception that the data costs something. So it is costly to adapt or to use satellite data in their operations or to start using them. And so some of those who purchase the data, they might not need super high resolution data, but they could use alternative open data sources. But there's a misconception that also hinders people then to use the data. So in a nutshell, I would say there's still I can't give an answer on how to adapt the pricing models, because this is I think one of the most challenging questions, to have the right market fit. But I would also say that we need to educate better, or to develop better resources that helps users to navigate the landscape better, to better understand, okay, do you need actually super high resolution data from commercial satellites, or can you also go with open data sets? But then with open data sets also, we have to make it easier to find your way around, to discover data, to access them, etc.
Just picking up on the point where you spoke about, and the fact that Tanya had a similar question about the cost, and I'm now looking at you, Jussi. One of the main limitations, I mean, we discussed quite a bit about cost right now. Is this something that marketplaces like Up42 could have an impact on, where you could basically provide an insight to the Earth observation data providers, saying these are the kind of data sets that are in demand, and therefore the pricing model needs to be changed or adapted in a way? Or is it more the Spotify model, where you have to have a license with the music suppliers, or in this case the Earth observation data suppliers, and therefore cannot really change it a lot?
Yeah, I think overall, like we can provide insights and then share those insights. And then I think one additional aspect that I would like to add into this kind of pricing discussion is that what I've learned is that for many kind of users and industries, it's important to understand the cost and then be able to relate the cost of some things that they're buying into their kind of a key business metric. So for instance, if they are like charging their customers in terms of like certain insights or reports or findings, or they are like providing processing for some linear infrastructure based on the linear kilometers, and then the data is priced with a completely different type of a metric, that's always a challenge. So I think, for instance, in these kind of cases, we can provide a lot of insights on like what is actually the relevant way how the end users and customers are consuming the data, what is relevant for their business, how do they measure and build their own business case, and then what would be perhaps kind of a suitable way to price the data. Like I think there's a lot of rigidity still in the industry in adapting those models, but I think that's the future opportunity where we can actually bring also some additional value.
That's actually quite an interesting aspect to consider, because right now, when people think about marketplaces, it's usually assumed to be a place where you sell your product, and not that the marketplace has a way of influencing the product itself and the product pricing strategy itself. Quite an interesting perspective.
Yeah, of course, like we are working in that way that the data providers in our marketplace, they are setting the prices and the rules, but definitely I think we can act there, kind of providing insights and like better understanding on how the data is being consumed.
Arnis, the cost of the data is not really an aspect at USPA, because most of what you do is oriented towards open data and open access. But considering the fact that 42% of the respondents say that they need EO data with a resolution of 50 centimeters or higher, do you believe the fact that they are requesting 50 centimeters or higher is driven by the fact that it's costing less? Or do you think that it's more because these high resolutions are mostly needed for niche applications?
Well, yes. Well, as I see it, out of all what I saw in your survey is that I didn't see any questions on the perception of value, and value for money, of course, is the primary, basically, algorithm how you evaluate the applicability of something. And for optical data, obviously, the perception of value is much clearer. There is less uncertainty. Everybody can more or less understand, does it fit the problem, unlike with time series or with products where spectral domain contains most of the useful information, like with Copernicus data that we provide. And so we should probably work in maybe in lowering the uncertainty around perception of both value and actually both cost for other types of data, and maybe then the answers might be different, and they would appreciate also the data that they're perhaps is not 50 or 30 or basically UAV or aerial data, but huge archives of data that we have from providers like Copernicus Planet or others. Yeah, that's I kind of diverged in my answer. Did you get?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's I mean, the core of it is it should be more focused on providing value, and I mean, of course, we didn't ask the questions in terms of resolution versus value, so that's a good perspective. Maybe something to consider for the next iteration of the survey. Alex,
it's perception of value, which is actually quite different from actual value.
True. We all might be happy to shell out a couple of $100 or a couple of €100 more for a product where we perceive it to be of a premium quality, whether that's the latest iPhone or whether that's the latest Samsung series phones, versus when we believe that the quality is not there. Alex, just to bring you into the equation, because you also work a lot with organizations, where do you see the cost discussion? Is that always the driving factor, or is it more a limitation?
No, so certainly cost is the biggest limitation when it comes to those commercial use cases. So one of the things that I'm trying to promote is the use of satellite data for construction monitoring of mega projects in the Middle East, for instance, in my daytime activities, right? And when you look at the number of kilometers and the cost of tasking, it on one hand, it doesn't seem to be that high when you compare it to traditional land survey methods. But on the other hand, when you add it up to weekly or bi-weekly mapping or tasking activities, it ends up to be a quite significant cost. That then is still challenging to translate into value. So something that that the Arnis mentioned, right? So what will be the return on this investment if I spend $300,000 on satellite data, right? How much cost will I be able to save? So this is something what consultants as myself are trying to certainly answer, right? But there are still not too many case studies, examples to base on those, to calculate it in a reliable way to prove the value. On the other hand, no, there are a lot of use cases for open data, right? So the deforestation is one of the good examples. Now there is a lot of regulatory requirements across Europe with the EUDR regulations and the other, where using open data is one of the key data sources to report and validate whether the organization is compliant or not. But then there is the fact that the satellite data are open and openly accessible does not mean that this information is available for free as well, right? So the cost of using this data and processing it at a global scale, this is also quite a big challenge for the for a typical organization that does not do anything with EO. So no, that there is a mixed answer, but certainly the cost is important and the most important factor for decision makers today. Well, with making any sort of business decision. So yeah.
I want to stick with cost for just one last minute as well. And because I really like this question from Peter, and I'm going to look at you, Arnis, because you are the closest to a data provider we have here. And I know USPA is not necessarily focused on the defense sector alone, but how do you internally and also in your communications encourage your data to be used for non-defense and security purposes? And how do you push the adoption of use cases beyond defense and security?
So indeed, USPA's mandate in Copernicus family is to actually address the adoption of Copernicus products and services data in what we call non-core users. And basically that's everybody outside the policy makers and those who control the implementation of policies. So and that's quite a vast mandate, and of course, and lots have been done in that field already. So how we do that is we started there 2 years ago, and from what I see is that there is quite a bit of still potential in actually reusing many of the data that and services that we have for use cases that haven't been explored before, and some companies have been working on that. Maybe they did struggle, and then they maybe didn't reach the market fit yet, and quite often they maybe didn't build up sufficient evidence that a product is fit for purpose. Let's say we have emergency management system that builds population density data and updates it every 2 years based on census and EO data. And that can be used to map and assess drone operation risk. But it's not exactly what the drone community requires. There is some misalignment in product. And for example, understanding to what extent the product fits another purpose is where we can actually step in and help to build up the evidence. And that's what I was talking about. Uncertainty about the value, we can help to lower that for some larger issues.
Yeah, it's interesting that the uncertainty about value is a driving factor, because one of the comments in the chat from Brooke has been that it's about removing complexity from workflows so that we can encourage more rapid adoption. Then the pricing kind of automatically happens because people see value in it. So moving away from the whole cost discussion, because I mean it kind of has dominated the discussion so far. The next couple of and let's stick with the challenges that were mainly mentioned in the analysis and from the survey that we did, and looking at you now, Jesse, the main challenge was next to cost was data availability, data quality, and the ease of access. These are all topics that I believe are core to what you work on. So how do you see this, and where do you think are the most promising areas for innovation, for new ideas to seep into the conversation to address exactly these challenges?
Yeah. So perhaps, there were 3 topics: data quality, data availability, ease of access. So starting with perhaps the ease of access. So I think related to that, there are basically 2 dimensions, like from the technical perspective that I think are important. One is the complexity of the data sets, and then the other one are the tools and interfaces from the kind of consumption perspective. And with the complexity of the data sets, there's basically a combination of multiple different data sets is something that people and customers do really want, and that was also confirmed by this survey. Users want to have a combination of flexible data sets, and that means that they need to get different data from various providers in all different file types and data formats, and with different types of metadata. And also like they want to expand the range of data that they are using. That's what we're seeing, like moving from optical satellite data to use aerial data, drones, SAR, LiDAR data, thermal hyperspectral data, and so on. And then often they don't have yet the same expertise and the same tools necessary available to work on those data sets. So I think what we as an industry can really do is to try to hide that complexity and then help the end users by making ordering of the data and then tracking the orders easy and consistent experience, and then also harmonize the data across the different providers and then across the different types of data sets as much as possible, so that it would be easy to consume in the download, like data processing. Harmonize it into one single consistent format with consistent metadata and so on. And then also do better job in pre-processing the data for easier consumption. So I think that's one aspect from technical perspectives that we can do for the data. And then I think the tools and interfaces are also important. So customers and then users, they have currently they're facing a plethora of options depending on the data source, on how to actually get access to the data. And some of the providers, they are providing full automation via APIs, and then others are relying on calls and on emails and on manual processes. And I think what we can do as an industry is really to help to make those data sets available via consistent tools and on APIs to order and access the data from various sources. So I think that's more from the technical perspective to help the ease of access. And then more from the kind of commercial perspective, we could also make this easier for the end users and lower the threshold. My feeling about the Earth observation business is that traditionally the acquiring the Earth observation data has been quite a challenge to many, especially like smaller and emerging customers. It's been a little bit like as a single student living alone in US going to a Costco and then seeing that everything is available, but it's available in this kind of a mega size, like wholesale size packages with massive like upfront commitment. And instead, like what those customers are wanting is kind of a consumption as a kind of like bite-sized portions. So I think the customers and end users, they are looking for more flexible ways of actually buying based on their kind of an immediate consumption needs. So I think that that's something where we can really lower the threshold. And the same applies also like to other commercial like processes, like all the kind of compliance checks and end user license agreements. So I think in this study also like 1/3 of the respondents say that they are struggling with the complexity of accessing data in commercial scale. So I think we can help that a lot.
Looking at you, Julian, you have your own experience accessing data when you were working on your PhD, and you now work with different organizations to help them unlock the potential of EO. How do you go about reducing the complexity? How do you go about tackling the aspects of data quality, the ease of access and availability in your work?
Well, when talking to or working together with organizations, it is a very tailored approach. Like first of all, just listening on their pain points and challenges they have, and then guiding them step by step on like what data is available and how, and then offering a solution that might work. But this is still a very complex process, because in the end it really depends on, like, it's very manual, and there is no one size fits all, because it depends also where the organization is coming from. So if there's already pre-knowledge in Earth observation, or if they really just start out getting interested in satellite data, and then it's a different approach. Well, myself working with data in the past years, and also developing training and having worked with a lot of, or having trained a lot of Earth observation practitioners. Well, this is, I would say, data access is still the biggest bottlenecks in hindering the real uptake and use of the data, because in the end, our data access systems are not made for the volumes that are actually available. And so users are limited or are forced to download data, and in this way you always have to make your problem smaller than you actually want to analyze, because you don't have the downloading capacities, you don't have the time, you don't have the energy to do this. Yeah, so this is one aspect, and then so this is one biggest bottleneck. And then another bottleneck where I see is then, like, basically there is solutions out there, like going towards cloud-based systems, or there's also a lot of platforms that can actually already help you to get the data more as you need them. But this also requires a kind of upskilling, because it's a different approach how you process data locally versus then not downloading data, going to the cloud, and then processing the data in the cloud. But there is also a big room for a new set of skills that is required for a large group of Earth observation practitioners now and also in the future.
I want to stick with you for a second, because you spoke about aspects that are not always addressed in most of the conversations that we have. It's the aspect of finding the right skill, or upskilling and educating the professionals in the right way. I mean, you've got your own personal experience, and you've been working with Women in Geospatial and other organizations as well, to kind of guide and mentor students and mentor professionals in the industry. And given that we now are at the cusp of a rapid uptick in Earth observation and the use of Earth observation as well, how do we ensure that educational programs keep pace with this, and how do you go about, like, letting them know what skills are needed?
Yeah, so I would say, like, because there is or the technologies and also the changes are so rapid, I don't think educational programs in the traditional sense from universities, where people are trained in remote sensing, they can keep up. And I believe that basically, like there will be a growing demand also for additional professional trainings outside of educational institutions, because there is a growing skill gap. So there's already analysis or surveys where Earth observation companies say they have challenges to get the right skill sets for some specific positions. But still also say in our community, in the Earth observation community, I feel that training is always a bit underrated. So it's always, there's not a focus on it. So people don't see it as a need that you need investment as well to actually bring people up to speed with all the rapid developments. And then I also think with training, we still, like in the Earth observation space, we try to have a one-size-fits-all approach. So basically, in universities or in our traditional educations, like, not sure if there's already addressed like something like cloud native approaches or marketplaces or something like this. Like, I believe there's still also like ArcGIS around and downloading data. But this is also, I think we need a more customized, individualized learning, because we not only have Earth observation practitioners who might be interested in upskilling, we also have a new group of users who are just starting out, and they might not be interested in getting their hands on working with the data, but they need an overview of what satellite data can be used for their applications. So the example, for example, is the new EU deforestation regulation. There is a new group of companies who need the data information because they have to do their compliancy reporting. But in order for their strategic decisions how to go about it, if they set up a team in their company with satellite data, they first have to inform them and get an overview of, okay, what data is actually there. And at the moment, there is no such a training available where you can actually get informed. It's more you have to spend the time yourself, you have to Google, you then go to different data provider websites, but then you still feel often unsure, okay, because yeah, your background is not in satellite and Earth observations. So yeah, with training, I would say we not only can't wait for like until educational programs pick up, it's also there's a need for a professional development outside, which should go more of an individualized learning path that takes people where they come from and where they also want to go with their training and Earth observation education.
Yeah, interesting thought processes and interesting insights as well, because these are not aspects that not all of us focus on, because we take it for granted that the universities are focusing on it, and that upskilling and training at companies is not something that a lot of us engineers tend to think about. So it's nice that we got the chance to discuss it as well briefly now. With the eye on the clock, because we've got roughly another 5 minutes to go, I'm sure we can talk for days on this topic, and I'm sure Alex would love to ask a million questions, and he's been very quiet this evening with his questions. What I would like to do is to maybe kind of go with a couple of questions in a quick fire way, and then end with your wish in terms of what the industry should do better, and the one challenge that you believe we will improve this year. Let's see if we get that going. So I have 3 quick fire questions for each of you. And for you, Jesse, just to start off with you, 23% of the survey respondents mentioned that they value integration with their existing products and services highly. So how are you tackling this?
Yeah, I think that's an important point, and like I mentioned already earlier, like there needs to be kind of a good harmonious tools and APIs that are providing access across the data sets, but also we need to have the right types of tools supporting the different type of user personas and supporting their existing tools and an infrastructure and workflows. And it's not always like a one specific tool for some customer, because within the same customer also there can be different personas. There's the developer who wants to actually optimize everything related to robustness and scalability and performance. So they want to have like very performant APIs where they can put massive loads of data and then order a lot of small AOIs with great performance. And then there's the GIS expert or remote sensing expert who's having his own or her own tools like be it then GeoGS or ArcGIS and so on, and they want to integrate with those tools. But then often there's also in the same customer and company, there's the project manager or the budget owner who wants to have a simple to use user interface to actually like manage the project and then track the status of the project and approve the budgets and so on. So I think there's a combination of these kinds of capabilities needed often to actually allow the real integration with the existing infrastructure.
Fantastic. Thanks. So, Julian, a quick fire question towards you. Do you believe that the next wave of Earth observation adoption is going to be driven by regulation, so EUDR and other environmental-oriented aspects?
Well, wave and big wave is like big words. So there will be definitely drivers, and you see now there's a lot of discussions happening, and a lot of which is nice, because I think this is a nice opportunity that a group of or companies or organizations who haven't been aware of the potential of Earth observation data are now getting interested. Unfortunately, they are forced to, but it's definitely a good sign, and it will definitely guide or lead, or is already doing a lot of discussions and bringing in probably also some solutions that can be then adopted for other verticals and other fields. So yes, I wouldn't say, I don't know, it's the next big wave, but there's certainly a wave.
Maybe not a wave where you can surf, but a very mild, gentle one, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, exactly, which can develop.
Fantastic. So we are already 1 minute past where I wanted to be. So let's quickly go with the closing remarks. And like I mentioned, I would like to get a very brief perspective from each of you regarding your wish list in terms of what you wish the Earth observation industry did better, and one challenge that you believe that we will tackle this year, or we will take a step towards tackling this year. So I go with you then, Jussi.
Okay, I'll pick one topic where I think we can do better, and what I hope we can then really move at least forward this year. And I think it's like doing more heavy lifting once, so that each and every player doesn't need to do those and then solve those same problems, like boring problems over and over again. I mean, I come from mapping, and then 15 years ago in the mapping industry, everybody was building their own map compilers, which were always broken when something changed in the data, or some kind of a more like a incident happened, and then most of the customers started moving towards using services via APIs. And I think we need to do the same. So we need to do more kind of a boring work of harmonizing and pre-processing data and verifying the data once, and then the customers can actually focus on more interesting and exciting things and build the exciting solutions on top.
that was definitely not the answer that I expected, but definitely what the industry needs. I agree with you. We need better quality of data in a way that we can allow others to work on top of it. Julia.
Yeah, so my wish list is probably not surprising, is where we can do better is forging a geospatial industry where all genders can thrive. So this means that we all get more aware about our biases, because the solutions and also applications of Earth observation, we need diverse perspective to really come up with the best solutions and best applications.
Couldn't agree more
I
with
hope,
you on that.
I hope that my connection is better now. I'm
yes, we have you back.
In the deep woods. Anyway, that's one thing, yeah, better connections. But the other thing is, I see that it's actually difficult for many, especially smaller end users, to buy EO-based data or services. For example, simple ones like change detection. There are tens of thousands of municipalities that might want to go with a credit card online and buy change detection to detect new construction, or other simple things that maybe don't require a dedicated even budget, but we're talking about something you go and buy as a service with a credit card often, or maybe it goes beyond even some procurement budgets. And that perhaps requires some sort of commodification that Jussi already talked, or somewhat harmonization. If not for the products, but at least for how you evaluate the products, especially, and that's important both for businesses but also for public sector that has to buy maybe through some procurement procedures, and you have to evaluate. There are so many providers; everybody has their own proprietary secret sauce, and how do you compare?
So not only making it easy to get these services, but also having a standardized mechanism to compare the solutions.
Exactly. I see many buyers are trying to do these exercises on their own, and it's quite an effort on their side.
Alex, any wishes from your side? I know it's a bit early for Christmas.
It's definitely too early for Christmas. So my wish list will be achieved, maybe not this year, but within the next couple of years. So what I wish for is more data. So much more Earth observation satellites, those of different resolutions, both 10 centimeters that are about to come, 30 centimeters, and much and all sorts of other types of Earth observation data. More data will mean that the cost will go down. More data will mean that there will be a possibility for other use cases. So if you'll be able to monitor every place on the planet every 15 minutes, this will open up totally new use cases. So I really look forward to the future, and hopefully to the new future, to the near future. Within the next 2-3 years, we expect hundreds of satellites, EO satellites, to be launched.
So in essence, we wish to have more data, a better quality of data, a more inclusive and diverse geospatial community and Earth observation community that caters to the needs of all the use cases and the users there are. I guess I probably captured most of what your wish lists were. It's been really an honor to be moderating and asking questions and not having to answer any of them. It's always fun. Thanks a lot to you for taking the time, and thanks a lot also to the audience for posting their questions and staying with us for more than an hour to listen to us discuss. Maybe next time, as Alex pointed out, we should do it in person. So I guess with that, I say thanks a lot. I hope you enjoy reading the report, and please feel free to connect with Jussi, with Arnis and Julia, and talk to them about your needs and talk to them about what you're working on, and maybe there is collaboration potential there as well. And thanks, Alex, for reminding. Hope to see you at the next event on the 27th of March.
Absolutely, it was a real pleasure seeing so many of you here today, and we hope that the report will be exciting for you. And again, please give us your feedback, your comments and suggestions, what we should tackle within our next survey and report coming up. And see you in 2.5 weeks on our next meetup, hopefully.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.